We're going to game 3 of this incredible best of 3 series, and I don't even know what to think about my life anymore. I didn't expect them to win that game. I don't think anyone did, and we're actually in the picking stage already, so let's bring it up on screen so people can check out exactly what happens. And again, I want to see something different coming out from Bipolar Method. They need something new, something different, something that Exposed Secrets is not expecting, so that they come out and just get stomped in the beginning, because Bipolar Method has the power. They have it. They can win team fights as long as they're not behind.
Just ban Agni. Please just ban Agni. Just please, just do it. I need you to ban our... just ban Agni, please, so much. I mean, that's the one thing is Lobster is untouchable. They had to blow 3 ultimates to be able to control this one player who doesn't even have a jump. I mean, that's nuts. They banned out the Odin. Great job here. That's going to stop the Zeus pick as well. I don't think Shadow Nightmare is really going to be confident enough in the Zeus pick without the combination to be able to ensure that they're going to guarantee it. So they're probably going to lean away from that. Again, I would love to see an Agni ban, and they do it. Great job. One more ban left. It's going to have to be probably Hercules here. They really don't want to give that away. I know they don't. And really, first pick, they're so versatile on Exposed Secrets with the amount of characters that they pick. I don't think they're going to be too worried about anything else. If they do get Hercules on either team, however, it's going to spell major disaster, because that guaranteed stun into Rock is a combination that people are not going to be able to deal with right now.
Yeah, it's really important. You see Sobek banned out as well. So, I mean, Sobek, Odin, Agni, I like these bans. This is something that really needed to happen. And without these initiators, especially with Agni off the table, I want to see how Bipolar Method reacts. Will they go for Poseidon? Will they go for Isis, who is still available? Hercules lock-in, definitely a smart call there. A very powerful character and something that's going to be a driving force, pun intended there, throughout the rest of this match here. Lobster and Spoon now on the table to be selecting. 30 seconds left. The question is, what will they go for?
Don't forget, Hercules is incredibly ambiguous. You can put him in 3 separate roles at this point. He's actually a very competent mid laner. He's great in the solo lane on the side, and of course, he's an awesome jungler. So this gives them a great opportunity not only to have a character who's considered a little bit overpowered right now, but a great opportunity to counterpick as well. So Thor's going to be grabbed. Ra's going to be grabbed. Ra being, again, one of the ambiguous characters. It's almost guaranteed we're going to see Thor into the jungle, though. So now they can actually counterpick jungler or run jungle Hercules at their whim.
Well, we also have the fact that Thor, this is the first time that Bipolar Method has picked up Thor today, so we'll see what High Rock can do with that. If the High Rock decides to go in the jungle, of course, Thor has other options, but, I mean, excellent point there, DM, the fact that Hercules is one of those characters that's so versatile that doesn't lock you into a strategy until you're done picking. That's what you want to pick up in the beginning of your picking stage, so you have those versatile characters, so you can change your strategy so you can't really get countered too easily. Finally, a Neath. I've been waiting for a Neath to be picked up in this series. I hope this locks in. An excellent pickup there, a strong character, and something that they were missing. I'm surprised they went for Cupid over Neath in the last match.
Yeah, I don't get that. But really, any other team, I would want to see Neath. This team, I love Youngbei's Apollo. He loves to farm. And I feel like if there's any weakness that Youngbei has, is he doesn't pay attention. I mean, his team will be in trouble, be like, oh, all right, I'm coming. And then he'll have to walk there. But with Apollo, he gets to fly there. And who doesn't love to fly?
Everyone loves to fly. Oh, this game.
Look
at all the damage on the table.
Whoa! Pick Arachne.
Freya, Poseidon on her, Hercules, Neath, Hebo, Ra, Thor, and Hades. This is going to be a kill game. Look how offensive these teams are. Hercules and Bacchus, that is a terrifying combination. You're going to get knocked up in the air, thrown around, hit in the face with rocks, and then covered in wine, and you're going to have such a hard time dealing with anything. They also have on her Poseidon as well as Freya for huge bursts. We see Hebo, Thor, Ra with the ultimate, Hades an offensive tank, Neath for burst damage. This game is going to be so aggressive that I don't know what to do with myself anymore, DM.
Well, I mean, we're pushing up. I think we're at the 7-hour mark right now, yes? 6-hour mark?
Let me
6-hour mark. We're 6 hours deep into this tournament right now. 2 hours, which have been completely dedicated to this final set between these absolutely 2 titan teams, both of whom we haven't really seen in the finals recently. It's been a lot of SK. It's been a lot of who is now Cognitive. And now Bipolar Method and Exposed Secrets have worked their way to the finals the hard way and are playing brilliantly. Both teams have been playing amazing so far. 2 of the best games I have ever had the privilege of casting since I've started playing Smite, or possibly even played in. And I'm very, very excited to see this go to the third and probably final game.
Well, it has to be the final game. I mean, best of three, so we'll come into this last match. Whoever wins this wins it all, and certainly this is going to be a hard-earned victory for both these teams. They have come out and played 2-hour-long games back and forth. Now we have a bit of a different lineup, new characters on the board. Game 1 and Game 2 were so identical, it's almost like deja vu, but this game is completely different. The picks are completely different. The bands came out. Agni is gone, and Lobster will be playing Hebo instead, which is a very different mindset that goes along with it. We have Hades, who's an offensive tank, not much of a peeler, but has more damage output and has the silence and the fear along with it, as well as Thor in the jungle for Hyrock. Neith played by Youngbei. We have Bobbycoff on Freya in the jungle, and Shadow Nightmare, probably one of the best Zeuses in the world, is going to be playing Poseidon, and then of course Funball on her, something that everyone loves to see. He went 9-0 and 10 last game and went for a double stacking item start. This is going to be an aggressive match full of blood and murder and honor. But we're going to cut to a 3-minute timer, guys, as we head back into this match. When the action is ready to go, we'll be cutting to that. Make sure that you are sitting down, you have a drink, you have prepared yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because this match is going to be hype, and you definitely do not want to miss this match.
Stick around, guys. This is going to be incredible.
Hey. Everyone, welcome back to Game 3, the Grand Finals. Exposed Secrets is up against Bipolar Method. We are in the final match of this very, very long and nail-biting series. The question is, can Bipolar Method pull it out and pull ahead for the first time in this series? They've been playing from behind literally the entire time, but they still managed to get a win in Game 1. They lost to Exposed Secrets in Game 2, and now the question is, who will come out ahead and be victorious in this EU Tournament Conquest number 14? Will it be Exposed Secrets or will it be Bipolar Method? Different picks came out this game. This is a brand new game starting out. No team is ahead. 7,500 gold to 7,500 gold. Everything is even across the board. And I'm excited to see what these teams do with what they've been given here today. But of course, I'm joined today by DM Brandon. And this is the final match to be seen.
All right, so a thing to note is they banned Agni. Agni was the absolute key to BM's comebacks in both games. One, of course, equating to a win, and one, of course, led to a loss. However, in this case, they did ban Agni out, but this has brought a double-edged sword on. While they did get rid of possibly the most effective character, they've given Lobster Hebo. Now, Hebo is long considered one of the strongest gods in the entire games in terms of flat burst damage, and then, of course, about a month and a half ago received a buff to his damage, which makes him incredibly powerful. Now, while he's not going to have the same control that Agni offered, he's going to have much, much more damage. Maybe not the same clear potential, but definitely will be very, very scary. So jumping in, you see Murder starting off the initiation here. Shadow Nightmare forming a little bit of lag. I'm not sure if they're going to opt to pause here. Looks like he has stabilized. So the first gold camp goes out for Exposed Secrets. The gold camp on right is also going to kind of fall down here. I'm not sure if they're going to have an opportunity. Badger actually jumping in there and picking it off, but he has used his dash for this. Shell comes out. This will be first blood.
There's a Whirlpool. He's got nowhere to go, and Badger falls right off the bat. Exposed Secrets following the same formula they have been following the entire time, and then basically is dominate the early game, and they're doing exactly that. So they're going to come out here 1-0. They're already up about 700 gold at the 45-second mark. They are not wasting any time today. It looks like we're going to have another offset. No, actually, Neith and Hades are going to link up here pretty soon, have a 2v2 in the left lane, the long lane, and then a Hercules up against a Ra in the solo short lane. Let's go ahead and cover who's playing what and where they're going before too many more kills happen. Exposed Secrets going to be the blue team, the bottom side of the map. They were previously opposite side of the map here, so we're going to have Bobby Koff up on Freya in the jungle, Zimp on Hercules in the solo lane, Murder on Bacchus supporting Funball on her in the left lane, as well as the solo mid lane, Shadow Nightmare on Poseidon. Now the opposite side of the map, the red team, Bipolar Method, Badger, the victim of First Blood, will be playing Hades over here in the left lane with his support, or the person he's supporting, which is Neith, played by Youngbei. In the jungle, we have Hyrock on Thor, clearing out those harpies there. Spoo playing Ra in the solo lane on the right side up against Hercules. And then Lobster on Hebo in the middle lane. And we've seen Lobster on Agni. We haven't seen Lobster on Hebo in a long time, but he was definitely known for his Hebo play quite some time ago.
And not to mention, I mean, it's not a character that revolves a ton of practice. You knock them up, you splash them, you use the ultimate, they're probably dead. I mean, that's kind of been the goal since Hebo's come out, and now with the buff to his damage, the only thing to really consider right now is that Shadow Nightmare got an early kill, which is going to allow him to get farmed quicker. That extra experience and extra gold is going to make him level 5 as Lobster hits level 4. Rotating over towards the left side for the gold camps, it's going to push Thor back as 3 members rotate over to ensure that this gold and this extra experience is pushed up onto exposed secret side once again. This is going to push them even farther ahead now. They're actually pushing up even closer to the 1,000 mark as the 800 mark is hit. Lobster does not have his ultimate available and will be picked up immediately after a great dive from Murder, and there will be no answer to that as Thor does not have his ultimate available. In fact, he's kind of putting himself in a dangerous spot, trying to keep them away from the tower to ensure the amount of gold he keeps is great. Hyrox burns down immediately three of the creeps to ensure that he can get some gold here, and then of course Hebo using the teleport that's going to be 125,000 gold. I'm sorry, 125,000. 125 gold that he'll be down. He will gain about a little less than half of that back thanks to his creep kills, but he will share some of that gold with Thor.
Now, Poseidon is not one of those characters you want to give any kind of lead to in the beginning because he can scale so quickly, especially with his passives. Stacking up that tide gives him percentage increase along with the extra damage he's going to get from possibly penetration boots right off the bat, especially, I mean, the release of Kraken is a big burst team fight ultimate. Giving that to Poseidon is something you want to avoid. So 2-0 now, exposed secrets up, 2 kill advantage and 1.3k gold right off the bat. Now, again, we've seen this time and time again, and what I'd like to see from Bipolar Method is just, you know, a push to start controlling the early game, because if they can do that, they obviously have the skill set, they obviously have the teamwork, the positioning, the engagements, the prowess, the intelligence and strategy to win the game. They just need to make sure they don't fall, you know, 15,000 gold behind as the game progresses from early to mid game, which they often do, and they have been doing this entire series. And right off the bat, you see Hades fall, then you see Hebo fall in the middle lane. It just seems like, you know, Shadow is just doing such an excellent job of positioning himself perfectly and winning the middle lane up against Lobster and shutting him down. And even when Lobster gets shut down, he farms so well. So if they can get ahead, here's a Poseidon ultimate yet again, but uses the Hebo ultimate just in time to avoid that. Excellent play by Lobster, a free ultimate exchange as Thor comes back over, and it seems like Thor's always in the vicinity to help him out.
You know, this is actually great for BM now because, I mean, Lobster doesn't really need his ultimate to be able to kill people kind of like the Kraken is necessary. You're not really going to equate kills off of things like, you know, a Whirlpool into Tidal Surge, but a Splash knockup into Splash can put someone low enough to really put them on tilt. And in this case, it was definitely a great play, but another 125 gold has been used to teleport Lobster back to the base. Granted, he will make all of that back thanks to the gold that he earned from those creeps.
We're going to see Ra and Hercules in the right lane kind of slapping this back and forth. Ra being forced back more than he would like to here, but does have a little bit of an experience lead over the Hercules. Check out individual goal numbers. We see Poseidon at 3,800, definitely leading the charge. Compare that to the Ra, who's farming so well on Bipolar Method, is only at 3,100, so a 700 individual gold lead. Now, something I like to see from Poseidon, he went for the boots and decided, you know, he's getting such a good early goal lead, he decides to buy a Doom Orb outright and then 2 wards. This is an incredibly important combination here. He has the extra gold, so he's going to decide to get some extra burst damage from that Doom Orb and stack it up as quickly as he can, but then buys 2 wards to make sure that he can keep those stacks up by providing vision and defending himself against rotations and ganks in the middle lane. Shadow playing an excellent match, and you can tell why he's here and why he's at Game 3 of the Grand Finals of this EU tournament.
It should also be considered that those 2 wards cost as much, or maybe a little bit more, than only one of the teleports that Lobster has used so far. So even though he has the lead, that extra gold that he's used for vision hasn't really fallen too far behind. Now, Zimp here has been picked off, a very difficult character to kill in Hercules. The mitigate wounds probably at this point is not maxed. At most sitting level 2. Generally, you want to max that driving strike first, so I don't know if they're going to be trying to max that first, but a 3-man engage in terms of Thor, Ra, and of course the Neath ult from far away is going to be enough to push him out, and of course Lobster did have enough to push him out, but Lobster is going to be picked up there. Thor coming in as well, but this is not a good opportunity for him, as you see Bobbykoff running over as well with that Pulse Irradiate combo, scaring him away. So actually a 1-for-1 exchange, and in that situation a level 8 for level 8 mid for solo lane winds up being dead even, except continuously pushing out Hebo is going to be a big thing. Now sitting 2 deaths, only 3,400, is over 1,000 gold behind Poseidon.
A really easy cleanup there, and Poseidon is just so perfect in his execution, his placement. Hebo realized there was a Poseidon and a Belch of the Gods on top of him, decides to use his ultimate crushing wave to disengage her, get her at tower range, but it wasn't enough. The belly flop was still off of cooldown. He sits right on top of Hebo, throws him up into the air, and right when he hits the ground, the legendary Kraken reaches out from underneath the earth and destroys his life bar. So now Hebo is sitting at 0 and 2 in the middle lane up against this black and gold Poseidon, who is 3 and 0, has the Doom Orb, about to finish off his boots. If he gets the penetration shoes of the Magi, he's going to be in such a good position to burst down literally any character on Bipolar Method.
So left lane, Bacchus and On Her grouping up here, going to be pushing up against Neath. Youngbei has been doing a pretty good job of farming this game, has his Heartseeker finished, as well as On Her, but On Her actually opting for the Devourer's Gloves to get that extra damage and lifesteal. The ultimate from Neath goes out into the mid lane. The Thor comes down as well to Rain. Shadow Nightmare will be going down here. That's going to be a big hit to his stacks. But 4 people rushing him down in mid lane to try to control him a little bit better, who is currently now sitting 3-1, still leads by over 800 gold.
Certainly does. We're going to see Roxy shoot as this searing pain to clear out this jungle camper and head back over to his right lane. Ra and Hercules doing the best they can to be relevant here. Now, one difference to note between the Hercules and the Ra. Hercules has a stacking on him, but what my main point here is the fact that Ra is kind of sitting on a teleport, whereas Hercules isn't. I would like to see more solo laners doing this, just because a lot of times the action is too far away to be part of, but if you can teleport in and win a team fight, it can be so crucial. Pillar of Agony comes out from Hades. There's the Intoxicate doing so much damage there. Looks like Freya's engaging with Hebo in the middle lane. Bacchus dropping about 1/3 HP, and Freya actually finishes off the Hebo in the middle lane while this action is going on. There's the Unravel, jumping out the Bacchus. Bacchus has no belly flop, and a Bacchus exchange for Hebo that definitely benefits a great deal for Exposed Secrets. You don't really need Bacchus to live too long, but Hebo is definitely a very important character.
So a lot of people will tell you who play in tournaments that you don't need to be the most farm person in the game. You just need to be higher level and more farm than the person opposite your role. So if you are the Neath in this situation, your goal is to be just a little bit stronger than Funball, who's on her. Also, it should be pointed out that Zimp, with an amazing Earthbreaker, rips Ra out of his lazy back really close to the edge of the tower. And then, of course, a great rotation from Shadow Nightmare is going to equate that once more to a kill. As he pushes up, he's going to get a lot of extra experience here and a lot of extra gold. I don't know if he's going to notice the Thor here to be pushed out. But in the same part, while they are pushing out Lobster, Shadow Nightmare is still far away ahead in terms of roll to roll. And then Jungler, it looks like Thor is pretty close to dead even with Freya. The only thing to consider here is that Thor is going for Heartseeker, and if they focus him down and control him the way that Thor has been controlled in the previous games, that Heartseeker is not going to equal up. I mean, without the amount of, I guess, physical defense that Voidblade the Voidblade gives you, it's going to be very hard for him to get in and get that Berserker barrage off in its entirety and still remain tanky enough to stay in after the fight.
Yeah, that's a good point there. And going back to your original idea, and the fact that they're just trying to destroy Lobster's chance of being relevant in this game. And I think they realized what the strategy was that Bipolar Method employed to be able to stay alive long enough, even with the big goal difference. And the answer obviously there's multiple parts to it, but one of the biggest, chunks of that responsibility goes to Lobster. I mean, he has been holding the team together so effectively. Lots of burst damage, good stunts, good rotations. He's in the right place at the right time in lots of situations, to the point where they lean on him a lot to make it through the early and mid game. So they decide, we all obviously are winning the early game. We have the strategies, we have the positioning, we have the engagements, and we're strong enough to win throughout the match. Why not shut down one of their key components, which is going to be Lobster? They ban the Agni, force him into Hebo, and then gank his lane repeatedly. I think this is an excellent strategy from Exposed Secrets, and I think it's going to work out quite well. There's a Searing Pain. The Rock comes out on the Hercules. Hercules might be falling here. The mitigate was just popped, and he might be able to go in on this. There is the Earthbreaker, but of course the heal from Ra is going to be enough, and Hercules heals up as well. A double heal lane in the right lane proves to be enough to keep both of them alive, even though they both dropped to critical HP. And looks like we're back to a little slap, farm.
I mean, it's something that BM really needs to go for. If they focus less on fighting, more on warding and farming, they're going to wind up in a much better situation going into the end game, because so far, Exposed Secrets has really kind of led the pack going into the end game, and Exposed Secrets is winding up in the same position they They wound up in the second game going towards the I guess the later stages of the early part of this game. Now only about 2,000 gold behind. They definitely have the opportunity to pick this up, and it's kind of surprising, really. I'm sorry, I'm ahead. It's kind of surprising, really, that Bipolar Method hasn't really looked for an opportunity to rotate around and look for objectives more than looking for these kills. And they're kind of not warding enough either. I mean, that's a lot of the part of where they're getting caught out. I mean, there's not a lot of vision. Now, Shadow Nightmare could be in a lot of trouble. The Neath ult's coming out. It might be blocked by Hercules. It is Thor trying to get in there as well. Shadow Nightmare is really close to death here, but Driving Strike, thanks to the fact that he has been buffed over 50%, got the stun off. A few shots is going to take him down. A 2-for-0 exchange for Exposed Secrets puts them even farther ahead. Actually, I'm sorry, 3-for-0. And they're going to be rotating over now, looking for an opportunity to grab 1,500 more gold in this Gold Fury.
Thor wanted that kill so bad. He knows he's a farm Poseidon. He knows he has Doom Orb. He knows he wants to shut down the stacks, but can't do it at the cost of his own life. And as you saw there, the Driving Strike stun came out, and it was enough to save him. And Toxic comes out from the box here as they leash the Gold Fury. Advantage comes out as well. And in Impale, they're just so careful with their positioning. They want to go for Pillar of Agony comes out, however. Searing Pink comes out and smashes them down. Freya loses her life, as well as the Hades. A good exchange there, trading Hades for the Freya. It's a pretty big pickup for Bipolar Method, but again, that means that the Gold Fury is still exposed. The cooldowns have been used. It looks like they're just going to go ahead and disengage. They don't want to waste too much on this Gold Fury area. 3,000 gold lead now for Exposed Secrets. 9-4 here at the 13-minute mark. The items will start to progress forward, and Freya decides to go for Demonic Grip first this time instead of Fatalis, and I like that decision.
I think that was a really good trade. Of course, trading the tank or the support, who normally is going to be lower level, was actually even to Bobbycoff in this situation. But I mean, shutting down the jungler there, especially with the amount of damage she's able to put out onto the Gold Fury, was definitely a great pickup. And that, of course, was entirely thanks to Spoo's shot. The Pillar of Agony went off possibly a little bit overzealous and getting a little bit greedy with it, but Spoo recognizes it, turns around, and a perfect beam right to the face is going to earn them another kill for this game. But still, 9-4 right now, still about 3,000 gold behind. Exposed Secrets is doing a great job of controlling vision and controlling the game so far. They have a lot of control over the map. You can see most of the wards are blue across the map, those little blue dots sitting in the jungle. But it should be noted that there are spotted in the jungle. They grab the mid camp on the left side. Gold Fury is still available, but Red has respawned on the right side, towards the bottom side of the map, so that's probably going to be picked up. Not sure if they're going to give this to Poseidon or Freya. It looks like they're going to... I see Poseidon moving around. Not sure where he's going. It looks like maybe he's going to help Hercules, but Freya is going to be picking up that red buff.
Great pickup for Freya. Definitely great scaling there on top of everything else. Hercules is going to kind of force the Thor back to his tower. The Tecton Rift might come out here, but they only have a chance at a kill. Hercules is very naturally tanky as long as he has his ability to move. He has to mitigate wounds. He has the dash. He has a good rock to knock away there. Hades is actually going to go out into the jungle here, trying to catch him out, but Side's coming from the backside. The cripple will prevent him from leaping. There's the Drunk State. The Whirlpool comes out, prevents that. There's the cripple. There's the ultimate coming out. The burst damage is incredible. The Impale's going to push him out of the cripple, but it's not going to be enough as the Desert Fury just burns him down and makes him fade away there. So a free kill on Hades in left lane, 10-4 now, and Exposed Secrets is just so unstoppable.
I mean, this is what we've seen every single game so far, is they've just absolutely controlled everything up into the very end stages of the game, where Bipolar Method kind of starts making their stand. Now, last game, they would have probably done the same thing we saw in the first game, where they make their last stand really worth something and then turn the game around and win it immediately. But the Minotaurs were not. The Minotaur was not defended properly. The Firemen's got into the base and pushed it to the point where they had to back to save it, allowing them to get the Fire Giant, push up, and win the game. Now, in this case, it looks like Bipolar Method is having the same difficulties in the early game. Their teamwork just isn't as fluid as what we're seeing on Exposed Secrets. And now, last game, we saw a difference of 30 assists overall, or maybe even closer to 40. I don't quite remember the number, but it was definitely a very high number of assists in difference, with only an 8 kill difference overall. And look at the teamwork right here. You see Poseidon just pushing Hebo back because he has enough faith in his teammates that they're going to be able to drop this down. And a great Valkyrie's discretion to stop both the damage and the control that could have come out from the Anvil of Dahl in there. So they're going to have an opportunity to really push this out, but it should be considered that Hades can now counter Freya with Pillar of Agony, and she's not going to really be able to get out without a perfect use of her beads.
As they jump away from that team fight here immediately after Exposed Series goes to the Gold Fury, they get it within the window before Bipolar Method even realizes what's going on there. They had a hard disengage by Bipolar, jumping over the wall, using all their escapes to disengage, and Exposed Secret says, okay, you want to jump away and use all your cooldowns? We'll grab the Gold Fury, and they did it in short order to the point where Bipolar Method had nothing that they could have done to stop that. So now about 5.5k gold. Up is Exposed Secrets, 10-4 here as we cross over towards the 17-minute mark. We see a Deathbringer being started as a third item for Neath. Very, very greedy choice here, but if it does pay off, it gets to the point where you're not losing too hard by the time he finishes off. It will be a big damage boost for Neath. However, I'm a little bit concerned about the overall attack speed numbers. Of course, balancing attack speed and damage is a good thing to keep in mind for carries. A lot of times, the limiting factor is what's going to be most important for your overall damage over time or DPS, damage per second there. So Neath can pick up a Deathbringer right off the bat. Does have a teleport in her inventory, able to use that to great effect. Thor does have the Heartseeker as well, and we see 2 Heartseekers and a Doom Orb up on Exposed Secrets, and that's that's going to catapult them further along in these team fights. And until Bipolar Method can get a good wipe on a team fight, Exposed Secrets is in a good spot to win literally every engagement that's heads up.
So right now, over on the right lane, Zimp got an absolutely beautiful pull into the driving strike and then 5 auto attacks, putting him very low, but then took a very serious amount of damage without activating Mitigate Wounds pretty early. So he actually is not going to be able to heal most of that back up. Surprisingly enough, he didn't opt to throw the boulder for the kill. I don't think he knows that he could have gone for it or if he would have actually gotten the kill, but he did a great job of controlling Ra there and earning a lot of experience and gold for himself in the process.
Certainly did, and we're going to have Poseidon and Freya pushing up the middle lane here. Looks like they're trying to disengage. Hercules is doing a good job of going back and forth and playing this pinball role, pun intended there, as he has the Excavate, of course. But you see him kind of going back to mid, then back to the right lane, pushing it up and leaving it. He's going to do the exact same thing right now. He clears the wave, kind of leaves the lane. Now, what this does is, if they don't have vision on Hercules, this is something they'll see in more like Dota or more like Heroes of Newerth, where there's tri-lanes that are prevalent. A lot of times you'll see people in the tri-lane just off the map. They're just in the fog of war. We see Thor actually ulting up here in the middle lane, a dunk down, missing the dunk on the Poseidon, and he's going to escape with his life there. But something we'll see is that the people in the tri-lane don't show themselves and puts the enemy in a state of confusion where they don't know where the enemy is and they can't really react to it. Here's a huge burst of ultimates on the Poseidon, and he most certainly will be falling there as they jump right on top. Neath ultimate coming out, and looks like the Zephyr will be enough to finish off the Thor. So a Poseidon for a Thor engagement. Now going top of the Hades. Hades finished off by the Valkyrie's discretion, and a 2-for-1 exchange in favor of Exposed Secrets there as Hades and Thor fall. Ra comes over, the Bandage comes out, they're not done yet, the Ravel comes out as well, looking for opportunity to finish off the Ra, forced back to tier 2 tower. And it looks like they're just going to go for this tower. This tower is guaranteed to fall, so after a 2-for-1 exchange, they get a tower as well, and Exposed Secrets getting further and further ahead.
That's right, about 7,000 gold right now at the 20-minute mark. That Ra being kind of tickled the back, just barely knocking him just enough where the point where he's going to have to leave there. But Hebo has not given up. A nice splash. I don't know if he's going to want to commit here. You see the driving strike's about to come out. Actually, yes, it does. He's stunned. Lobster's going to have to use the ultimate, but before he has a chance, was the ultimate available? No, it was not. So he was just kind of stuck out of position there. And a great combo is going to ensure that they pick up another kill. So that 2-for-1 turned into a 3-for-1 exchange, earned them a tower, and now right tower is actually on tilt as well. And I do see 2 teleports available if Ra or Neath decides to come over. They will have an opportunity to save this, but they have a really good chance to burn this down.
Contrast this game to the last 2 games here, DM, and something that you touched on so many times that viewers really need to be aware of as you see Pale Agony come out here in the right-hand lane. There's the Searing Pain. Hercules taking so much damage, but does have the Mitigate Wounds up. Will be healing a lot of that. But back to my point here is the fact that Lobster's a key component. So, these games aren't, the picks are slightly different. They have a few things rotating in and out. But I would say the biggest reason why Exposed Secrets is in such dominant control right now, and really Bipolar Method is in a tough spot and doesn't have as much of hope as they did in the prior games, is the fact that they banned Agni, forced the Hebo pick, and then constantly ganked Lobster. Lobster's 0-5 right now, falling behind, and of course Youngbei having a tough time keeping up as well. Those 2 components were keeping Bipolar Method alive in these last few games. So you get rid of Agni and then gank Lobster on a character that he's not, not as comfortable as, not as powerful on. All of a sudden, that hope of comeback is being lessened and lessened to the point where Exposed Secrets is probably happy with the way the game's going right now.
In terms of offense and defense, Lobster is absolutely their best offense. In terms of defense, I would actually say it's Youngbei. Youngbei is so slippery that every single time you go over to his lane and you think you're going to have a chance to get a kill, he just avoids you in every situation possible and just wastes so much of your time. And for the past couple of games, we keep seeing them going over and trying to kill Youngbei. In this game, they're like, let Youngbei do whatever he wants. If he wants to farm, let him get fed. We'll focus him late game after we've taken care of the problem. In this case, the problem obviously is Lobster. For the past 2 games, Lobster has completely controlled and completely outfarmed every single person. And you know, even with this 1 kill here, it's not going to be enough to really bring them back into it just yet. You can see them starting to back off here, and I don't love that. This is their opportunity to start taking their chances and start burning things down. You can see Lobster still has his chance to ult and use his combo to blow somebody up, and this is where they really need to push, because this is going to be their opportunity to start catching back up. Now, High Rock's going to be dropped right into the crack, and the ultimate's going to go through 2 people. Bobby's going to be able to pick him up. Lobster's going to be 2 seconds away from getting himself a kill, so that's a 1-for-1 exchange, but here comes Funball. Now, Funball is huge right now, 304, 2 fully stacked items, a lot of damage coming through, and look at the damage. No stun there. Desert Fury is going to be a lot, but another splash is going to come out in just a second. Putting on to Bobby. Bobby's going to be able to do a lot of damage, but he's going to get pushed down as well. Funball's going to escape over the tower in lieu of trying to fight anything more. Great opportunity, and this is what I'm talking about for BM. They have to be aggressive. Now, High Rock got picked off a little bit early there, but they turn around, they have an opportunity to fight something, and when they're out of position, Lobster has enough damage, even as a person who's pushed far behind. I mean, Hebo does an incredible amount, 30% stacked on top of the fact that he has 20 from Vamp Shroud, 50 from Shoes of Focus, and then another 50 from Void Sound on top of the extra pen that he's getting. Great job.
Yeah, that was, you know, a swing in the right direction for Bipolar Method here as a pause comes out and immediately gets unpaused and then immediately gets paused again. It's a bit of a misclick there. I don't see a disconnect on the board, so that maybe sorting something out or maybe you know, something arose that needed to be tended to immediately. Of course, you know, we were at a best of 3 when the game is the way it is. I don't think anyone has any problem waiting to give this game the best chance of being as epic and awesome as the first 2 games were. So we're going to wait a little bit here while the pause kind of finishes out. It looks like we possibly had a disconnect. I don't know if I saw that correctly. It looks like it flickered for a second. But it looks like we're going to be sitting here in this pause, and as you can see on the map, we look at the ward situation, a good amount of wards for Exposed Secrets. They actually have defensive wards, which surprises me. I mean, they have wards on their side of the map and more in a defensive stance. Possibly, you know, so their offensive wards got countered or something like that. But Bipolar Method only has 1 ward on the map right now on the right side near the Fire Giant. But again, the Gold Free's going to be more of a focus until the team fights start becoming more one-sided.
All right, so moving forward, the game has continued, obviously, so we're going to be doing their best to check everything that's going out. Immediately, we see Ra rotating through the jungle, not really sure what his objective is at this point. He kind of looks like he's going towards mid lane, possibly to help the buffs. You can see him using abilities there just to try to get into position faster. Now, Lobster at this point, a little bit out of position, is going to opt, it looks like, to... I'm actually not sure. Yes, he does go back to the base to try to spend some more of that money. At this point, will he have enough for Breastplate of Valor? He sells the teleport. Don't know. Nope, he uses the teleport. Sorry about that. He gets back to mid lane as fast as possible. And, of course, now rotating over towards the Gold Fury, I think everyone recognizes what's going on here. But Murder will be beginning the initiation here, taking a look at the Hand of the Gods situation. Hand of the Gods 3 once again onto Murder. And, again, Badger only sitting level 1, so they will not have the opportunity to steal this unless they can completely control Murder, and they did not. Once again, Exposed Secrets grabbing that, but a Pillar of Agony is going to catch 4 people, all of whom had jumped out. Zim throwing the boulder out, hitting 3 people in the process as well. Berserker Barrage going down into High Rock. Lobster missing the ultimate, getting a splash and a knockup of Valkyrie's Discretion is up, hitting multiple people, grabbing Lobster. Now Murder's also in trouble. You see Badger trying to escape. Driving Strike's actually going to miss due to the banished miscommunication, but it's not enough for them to escape here so far. 3 for 0, 4 for 0. Bobby Koff on his final legs here will be able to escape as Raw jumps out. 4 kills, 0 deaths, plus the Gold Fury is going to skyrocket them ahead. Once again, we see Exposed Secrets sitting 12,000 gold ahead of Bipolar Method.
I mean, they were so low. They were so low. They split it evenly, and it seemed like Bipolar Method had the right idea, but it was slightly out of their reach. They overextended. I mean, it was ever so slight. It wasn't an obvious overextension. And something that a lot of new players would look at and be like, wow, that was actually, you know, a decent team fight. It seemed like it went more in Exposed Secret's favor, but it was just slightly outside of their engagement range. You saw Hebo using his crushing wave, and even then he was still out of range, able to attack the right players. We saw the Kraken didn't hit the center, but hit the outside ring on 3 players, and then Freya came out. Valkyrie discretion doing so much AoE damage. They respond perfectly with that, and they have the gold advantage. They got the gold 3. I would like to see Bipolar method. If it's not, if the time isn't right, just let it go. Just let them have the gold theory, back off, don't overextend and try to force a team fight when you don't have the positioning to capitalize on it, and that's exactly what happened there. They had the right idea, but they just a little bit overextended, lost a lot of kills, actually lost 4 kills to that, as well as the gold theory, and a tower, as you can see, exposed secrets, getting that hustle in them, and looking at exposed secrets, if they learn to capitalize on that downtime after a team fight win, they could be a very, very powerful contender in the EU scene.
All right, so already taking a tower down in mid lane. They're grabbing 1 on left as well, pushing their lead even farther ahead, getting 14.5 right now, and they have another chance at a tier 2. Now, granted, this should be noted that they have Fire Giant here, so the amount of damage they can put forth is pretty astronomical. The amount of damage that just Poseidon could do by himself right now is enough to take out 2 to 3 players by himself. So they have to be careful. They're going to give away another 1,500 gold, putting them up 16k right now. I mean, that's a very dangerous number. That's what, you could see a 7,000 or 8,000 gold lead, and it gets pretty difficult. I mean, it's very hard to communicate through 6,000 or 7,000 gold, specifically because they have, an item level to possibly 2 item levels per person, on each of their players. But now, in this case, they have entire items. Now, the Pillar of Agony, once again, is going to grab 3 people. On her, jumps out. Thor is spinning, doing his best here. He actually getting pretty low. Bobby Koff gets picked up as the Shadow Nightmare. Once again, overextending. We've seen them in this position before. 0 for 3 right now. They're trying to get Lobster before he goes down. He knows that he needs to get something here. But Funball is actually doing a ridiculous amount of damage, picking up 2 for 3 so far. They have a chance to really turn this around. And it should be noted once again that he has not died. Second game in a row that he's just been completely just shredding the competition, but now he's in a lot of trouble. There's nowhere for him to go. He does not have any lifesteal whatsoever on that build aside from the Devourer's Gloves, so he's not going to have enough to really sustain through it. Now, murder versus 3 people is not going to be enough to take anything down. A valiant effort by Funball is going to take his first death in 2 games, and he's going to lose 25 Heartseeker stacks, but for his efforts, he will gain 2 kills and stop them from really pushing down more than possibly 1 tower.
This is something that we've seen in the last 2 games, the fact that, Exposed Secrets gets a gigantic lead. They get the Fire Giant, and they're a little bit too overzealous with their engagement and, going after the Phoenix. You have to realize that regardless of, what situation you're in, how far ahead you are, they're still playing Smite where everything is a skill shot, and the positioning really, really matters. Not only that, but you're up against Bipolar Method, who've been playing this game for over a year. You can't take it lightly. You have to be very methodical, very accurate, very specific on how you're going to engage on that Phoenix, or you will get wiped just like we saw there. So Exposed Secrets getting taken out. All the Fire Giant buffs will be falling off there. The Fire Giant will be spawning here in about 2 minutes or so, and it looks like Exposed Secrets, even though they're 21 to 13, up about 14,000 gold, again gets a big deicide against BM, and the game will go longer as long as Exposed Secrets just fails to secure the end.
Also 21 to 13 right now. We're actually getting closer and closer to the 30-minute mark. Generally speaking, we don't see a lot of games past the 30 to 35-minute mark, especially in the EU scene where they're so aggressive and so willing to dive. But both of these teams have been so careful throughout, and they've done such a great job of controlling that it's really impressive to see that in this game specifically, Exposed Secrets has still yet to lose a tower, leading still by about 14, a little over 14,000 gold. They did lose their last engagement, but it also, again, should be considered that their lead is so massive that at this point they can afford to lose 1 or 2 team fights by going for risky things. The risk versus reward is definitely in their favor, because at this point the reward is win the game, and the risk is maybe lose 2 towers. I mean, it's definitely not something they have to be threatened over.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's a tough situation to be in, and it's something that they're going to have to work their way through. The Banish comes out. There's the Freya damage. Looks like it's just going to jump over wall is the Hades. But again, another Gold Fury goes in favor of Exposed Secrets. They're up about 16,000 gold. Again, we're in the same situation we saw in the first match, where Bipolar Method is in an insurmountable difference in gold and experience as well. You can see everyone on Exposed Secrets hit level 20 except for Bacchus, whereas you have 2 level level 20s on Bipolar Method. Lobster, High Rock, and Hades are still struggling to hit that mark there. So the positioning and the next team fights are going to be so important, and I think the only way that Bipolar Method will be able to hold on this game, as they have been, is if Exposed Secrets continues to make the mistakes they've been making all day long, or if they can steal away the Fire Giant. Is a big steal there too.
All right, so the Fire Giant has been respawned. This is going to be obviously the next opportunity for both teams. But going into this one, I mean, 17,000 gold at the 30-minute mark before people are starting to hit level 20 too much is a much bigger deal than 17,000 gold when it's 50 minutes into the game. So in this case, they're going to have a really good opportunity to end the game on this engagement. Now, jumping in here, you see Murder initially just jumping in and trying to just push them back as far as possible. But it looks like they're going to disengage here and possibly look for maybe an opportunity to initiate on the players themselves. Jumping down, it looks like High Rock actually has used both of his movement abilities onto Thor. Lobster has been pushed back as well, so this is going to be their opportunity to jump in and steal that Fire Giant. If they decide to jump in on this, almost everyone at this point has a very strong escape away from the Pillar of Agony, and they can completely jump on to that Hebo as fast as possible, burn him down, because Thor has very little to offer into this fight without Anvil of Dawn. He doesn't have his escape anymore.
Initiation comes out. Ra shoots out the beam. Supposed to secures the Fire Giant. I'd like to see BM just disengage here, but they don't. Hades jumps in after the fact. Gets finished off by the collapse from Exposed Secrets. Now they're down 4-5 here with Hades dead for another minute, and they had the Fire Giant buff to boost. So 17,000 gold between these two teams. They have the Phoenixes in their way. One outer tower still stands on the right side for Bipolar Method. The question is, will they pull out another incredible turtle, or can Exposed Secrets push this in for the win of a very long and nail-biting series? They have the Fire Giant buff. They have the stacks up on their items. They're coming out here. They're going to pressure this middle Phoenix. This middle Phoenix will most assuredly fall, and indeed it does. That Phoenix goes down, so they're going to go ahead and go over to the left lane. Thor's kind of hanging out. Looks like he's going to push this wave up. He's actually going to go back to his base, but they don't care about minions. Looks like Exposed Secrets going to go right onto this left Phoenix. This Phoenix can be burned down quite quickly. Ra throws out the Solar Blessing, but the question is, can this engagement be good enough? Can they do the exact same thing they did before? They got a deicide. Jumping on top of Thor is the Bacchus. There's the water spout, pops the beads, a great tectonic rift, stuns 3 players and blocks one of them. The left Phoenix still taking a lot of pressure here. They're going in. There goes the root on top of Murder here. Use the Each damage to avoid it. The Poseidon ultimate is up and available. Actually, no, it's actually on cooldown. Apologies. The Poseidon ultimate is not available, but will be coming up soon. He used it on the Fire Giant, so it's probably about 30 seconds out or 20 seconds out or so. But they're just going to go ahead and disengage after taking the left and middle Phoenix, and like this play from Exposed Secrets. It's cautious, it's careful, and it's more of the war of attrition that won them the last game.
That's right, but they got to be sure to be not too careful, because time and time again we've seen BM just catch back up and farm, and they're starting to tick on to level 20 now. Lobster's 1 level away, High Rock's 1 level away, Badger's still a little bit farther behind, but not too far behind Murder to be considered, I guess, under farm. So everyone's doing a pretty good job at this point of trying to just keep themselves in the game. But as 2 Phoenixes have died, it's important to note that these the Firemans are going to start just pouring down these lanes and really start keeping them busy. This will allow them to start focusing down right lane tower, earn a little bit more gold, and then, of course, into the right lane Phoenix if they so wish to go for it. But at this point, they still have the Fire Giant buff, so it should be their time to start pushing forward.
It certainly should, and we're going to see if they can pull that off or not. That is the question that everyone is asking themselves in chat. The gold gap gets bigger and bigger, and again, we're not near that threshold where the saturation comes from the items. You see, Hades has 2 items and 1 level in Void Stone, so very far behind there. Hebo only has 3 items himself. Neef has 4. Of course, the Thor has almost 4, and the Ra has almost 4 himself, so not hitting that saturation point where the gold doesn't matter. The gold most certainly matters right now. As you can see, Exposed Caesar is about to finish off their item builds. Honor is actually 2 levels on Titan's Bane, a very cheap item there, away from finishing it completely. Poseidon about to finish that rod up to Hootie, which is to be a big difference, and Freya as well. So once those 2 rods are done, the damage is going to go up exponentially.
So check this out. Thor has to abandon his quest here from trying to stop those firemen from pouring in to help the right Phoenix. Otherwise, they're going to be in too much trouble. Pillar of Agony is going to go out capturing 2 people, but the Kraken's going to go down as well on top of Desert Fury. 4 ultimates now used on Badger. This is where we see things start going badly for Exposed Secrets. They can turn this around. All the ultimates have been used, and Lobster still has enough damage to really burn this down, but they have to be very careful about where they use it. They're going to decide to heal up first. No Phoenix is left to stop them from burning this Minotaur down. This has to be an absolutely perfect play from Bipolar Method, or this will end one of the longest, most most absolutely intense series that we've ever seen in Smite. But the Minotaur's already below half. They're not paying enough attention. He's jumping in there. The Whirlpool's going to be coming off cooldown in just a second here. You see Hyrox coming in, taking way too much damage. The Spurs up in the air to do a lot of damage. Hyrox running into Fireman. There's nowhere to go. Minotaur drops. And that's going to be the longest sets I've ever seen. Another 30-plus minute game. Exposed Secrets comes out champions over Bipolar Method in one of the most fantastic series of games I've seen in Smite since I've started casting. Absolute congratulations to them. Drybear, why don't you take a look at the damage and see where things went wrong for Bipolar Method?
We're going to see Hercules pulling out about 12.3k healing on himself. The player damage is going to be something that we'd expect to see from this matchup. Ra ended up pulling out 23.5k player damage, the most in the entire game, and he was on the losing team. Again, I have to remind you, there is a spectator bug where the scoreboard grabs 2 matches ago when it posts up the names here. So, of course, there's Exposed Secrets on the blue team, and the right side of the screen, the red team, was Bipolar Method. So, Spoo from Bipolar Method pulling out tons of damage, but notably less healing. Normally, he's about even in healing and damage. This time around, he only pulled about 7,500 healing done, and that's just because they could not group up enough to be in good teamfight range. Youngbay at 3, 1, and 7 doing a great job there, but I think the biggest thing to point at is the 2 and 8 Lobster and the 1 and 7 Badger, but mainly the 2 and 8 Lobster. I mean, think about it. Lobster was such a driving force in the first 2 games with that Agni. They ban out the Agni and then gank him repeatedly to the point where, you know, Bipolar Method didn't have a whole lot to contribute to those team fights. Obviously, if Exposed Secret steps out of line and gets too greedy, Bipolar Method will easily clean that up, as you saw them get a deicide in front of their own Phoenix with Fire Giant and a huge gold difference. But of course, you know, once that Lobster is taken out of the game, if we scroll over and check out his item situation, we see Hebo sitting just about his 3rd item and was forced to build tanky. He went for CDR boots, a Focus Void Stone, and then Breastplate of Valor. He just wasn't doing the damage he needed to do, even with his passive doing, you know, upwards of 30% scaling. Incredibly powerful, but just not enough to bring to the table to pick off squishies like the Poseidon, like the Honor, like the Freya, where they really need to do it. We see the Freya having Demonic Grip, has the Fatalis, the Bancroft's Talent, about to finish off the Rod up to Hootie, and it's just incredible to see how well Exposed Secrets can work together. And once they finally get their strategy in line and decide to push in and capitalize on a team fight, they are very, very powerful. They obviously have their mechanics down. That's one of the biggest things about the early game, you know, in the laning phase, is all about mechanics. It's about making sure that your rotations are good. Your wards are up, you're clearing the jungle camps, you're pushing everything up towards the enemy tower, and just being very methodical and efficient with your time, and that's how you win the laning phase, which Exposed Secrets is doing to a T. They're so methodical about it that it's fantastic to watch them do it, but Bipolar Method just could not get off the ground all day long. They were struggling in game 1, they were struggling in game 2, they were struggling in game 3, and they won game 1 by, you know, a lot of it was a little bit of luck and good positioning and perseverance, but again, if you're playing from behind in all the matches, it's tough to pull out a real win.
So looking at the items here, it's important to note that when you got the early Heartseeker underneath, very early Heartseeker onto Thor, I mean, not an item you really see go onto Thor too much. It puts him a little bit farther behind. You want to see this on range characters, because if you put yourself in melee range without defense, you're going to get blown up. And this is kind of what happened here. 5 and 5, not really allowing him to get that stacked up repeatedly and then keep it there. They kept focusing him down. And of course, in the early game, once they banned out Agni, it ensured them that they weren't going to have that amazing burst potential and the amazing getaway. Now with Hebo, of course, he does have a great escape mechanic in his ultimate, but if that ultimate is dodged or used as an offensive mechanic, he's instantly going to get blown up. And Lobster as the key to this team, I mean, a lot of their strategy is get Lobster fed as soon as possible, allow him to farm, and then support him. In this case, they just focus Lobster down, and you'll note the one team fight where they didn't focus Lobster down, they lost. Even with Fire Giant, they lost that team fight single-handedly. Lobster just destroyed them. I mean, that's the most of where their kills came from, was that, you know, that 3 or 4 kill exchange. But in this case, I mean, Hebo, once he gets pushed too far behind, it's hard for him to catch up. And it should be considered here that instead of going for something like Wall of Absolution or something that's going to give him more magical power, he went for Breastplate of Valor. Now, this accomplishes 2 things in a negative light for Hebo. 1, you're overcapping yourself, which means you're wasting money on CDR. And 2, you're not giving him his passive. Now, his passive is going to give him a 30% increase to his damage in terms of his magical stat, not just 30% flat damage. So when you don't build him for extra magical damage, you're not actually getting benefit to that passive. taking a look at the build, he's getting 20 from Magical. I'm sorry, from Vampiric Shroud, 50 from Shoes of Focus, and 50 from Voidstone. So only 120, given 30% on top of that, still going to be a fair number. But if he had went for something a little bit more damaging, he might have had the damage to really stop them in their tracks. In this case, he was getting blown up either way. And ultimately, he was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I go defensive and then not have the damage to kill people? Or do I go pure damage and then I'll be dead in 2 seconds? So either way, they really focused Lobster down. They shut down their team synergy. And Exposed Secrets took this because in the third and final game, they really figured themselves out. They had the correct strategy, and they played it absolutely perfectly.
They really did, and it's something that they just needed a little more oomph to be able to finish those games. And obviously Lobster, as well as Youngbay, but shutting down those 2 pillars in the strategy. And this is something that you'll see from a lot of competitive teams, and it's something I like to see from the previous Denial EU, but now the Cognitive EU, is the fact that if you're able to recognize why the enemy team is successful and pick it apart little by little, that is the sign of a very versatile and amorphous team that can change their ideals, change their strategy, change their paradigms to the point where whatever is thrown at them, they can react to it and still come out victorious. And that's something that I would like to see Exposed Secret work on in the future, because obviously they're talented players. I mean, you can see Bobby Koff, Murder, Shadow Nightmare, Zimp, and Funball. They came out to play today and they conquered without a doubt. No one would argue that Exposed Secrets did not play well today. It's just they had trouble in the late stages of the game where they needed to figure out why the enemy team was holding on and be able to pull that out from under them. So we saw Lobster in this match, and this is exactly what they needed to do. I mean, this is something that you touched on repeatedly today, DM, and it's just a good point to focus on the fact that, Agni on Lobster was too much to give them. So banning out Agni, forcing them to Hebo makes them, it seems like a subtle change, but it's really not. If you look at the fact that, you touched on it just a few moments ago, DM, is the fact that, you're in a point where you're playing from behind. So the question is, do you go for enough damage to be relevant, but you have to sacrifice all your defense, or do you go for defense to not get blown up, but then you're not doing enough damage to be relevant? It's this important, decision that you force them into. Now, the key point here is if you look at Hebo versus Agni, if Agni goes for hard damage, he can dash away without losing a major cooldown. Hebo cannot afford that same price. We see Hebo forced to use his Crushing Wave to dash away, and that's really his only escape. He has his River, which is a bit of a slow, increases his movement speed, but again, without that stun, along with the ability to dash away, Hebo is a lot easier to shut down if he goes for damage. So generally, you're going to see him make the choice to go for tankiness here, so that he can stand in and rely on his passive for the damage, which is going to be lessened from the damage he would have if he was up and caught up with the enemy team. So that to the point where Hebo just isn't as much of an influence as you would want him to be if you're on Bipolar Method, and he just gets continually shut down, and that's exactly what they need to do. And once they accomplish that, you can see the Bipolar Method really was on a back foot the entire game and had no chance of winning those team fights, and that's exactly what Exposed Secrets accomplished here today. And you can see the influence that they had by just shutting down that single pillar of strength for Bipolar Method. I mean, looking at the numbers, looking at the items, it's just so fantastic to see Exposed Secrets come out today. And it's also the implications along those lines is the fact that we haven't really seen Exposed Secrets go to the finals and compete at this level repeatedly. So I'd like to see them implement more thought process and strategy into their play and come out next week and contend against the top teams. Obviously we saw SK have a forfeiture. We had the Cognitive Gaming EU previously, the Denial EU, who had both those teams had dynasties. We saw the SK game, I believe they won 2, 3, 4, and I believe 5 of the EU Tournament Conquest, and then Denial EU picked that up, winning a great streak of victories there, building their own dynasty in the EU Tournament Series. So could Exposed Secrets come out and have their own dynasty? Yes. Do they have the talent and the ability? Yes. And I would like to see them do that coming out next week and rotate their strategy and be just as strong as they did today.
So that's going to be it for us today. This tournament was brilliant all the way through. I mean, we had a really amazing set of games. It was unfortunate for those who lost connections. Even the casters wound up losing some connections today, and our admins too. So there was definitely some connection issues that we had, but we'll work through it. We'll deal with that. But I mean, thanks to those finals, I don't think anyone will remember that. I mean, that was one of the greatest sets of Smite that I've seen ever, possibly even in any MOBA. I mean, that was really something special to watch. And I applaud all 10 players that played throughout this series. I mean, everybody played amazingly, and I really loved watching it. I hope you guys at home did too. But we will be back again next week, of course, Sunday for the EU tournament. Of course, Lionheart and Hi-Rez Bart will be on Saturday casting the NA, and then of course you can find me and Dry Bear during the week, 7 to 10 for me, 1 to 4 for Dry Bear AM, that is, and of course those times are Eastern Daylight Time on the Smite Game channel right here. So make sure to follow and check us out during the week. Dry Bear, anything else?
Well, I mean, just to reiterate exactly what you're saying, I mean, obviously playing this long of a set, hour-long games back to back is tough for players to pull off. So a big ups out to all 10 players that played Bipolar Method and Exposed Secrets, and it shows how much depth there is in the EU tournament series. I mean, when the top tier teams are not there, I mean, obviously the first few slots, there's just so much depth there that it's so close in the skill level that when the different teams come into the finals, it's still an excellent match. And like you mentioned, this is probably one of the best series I've casted, if not in a long time, then definitely over my entire casting career for Smite, and I'm certainly looking forward to be able to rewatch these games after it's done. If you want to check out the VODs, you can definitely go to the top right corner, click on videos for Smite Game channel, and this will be saved in the VOD section. You'll be able to watch those again, and I implore you to do so because there's just so much to gain in the knowledge and learning, and if you like getting better at Smite, you want to start competing yourself, this is a great place to start because the fundamentals employed here that you may have missed in the first few playthroughs or first few watches are definitely there to be learned. But I mean, as DM mentioned, we are both regular streamers throughout the week, and we also do the EU tournament every single Sunday, so you'll be able to watch us here next Sunday at the exact same time, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, as well as 3 p.m. CET. And again, the Saturdays is for the NA tournament casted by Lionheart and Hi-Rez Bart, the esports manager. The esports manager for Hi-Rez is going to be casting that on Saturday, and that starts at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and I believe 6 p.m. CET. So definitely a big opportunity there to watch some more competition for Smite. But I believe that's it for us today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being so fantastic and being with us for this momentous occasion, because this was an incredible series to watch. I know everyone in chat was so hyped to watch this because these were incredible games. But we're going to be heading out for the evening. I'm pretty sure that DM and I are going to go die somewhere in a corner as we are just so tired. But we're lucky and very happy to be able to bring you this kind of action. And I'm glad that even though we had so many setbacks today, that we definitely came out and had an awesome event, and we'll be seeing you throughout the rest of the week.